May 23, 2022. A security researcher named Zach Edwards posts a thread on Twitter, complete with packet captures, showing that the DuckDuckGo browser on iOS and Android was allowing Microsoft tracking scripts to load on third-party websites. Not all tracking scripts. Google's were blocked. Facebook's were blocked. But bat.bing.com and certain LinkedIn tracking endpoints owned and operated by Microsoft were passing through unimpeded. A browser whose entire marketing pitch was tracker blocking had a carve-out for one specific advertising partner, and that carve-out had never been disclosed in the marketing. The response from DuckDuckGo's CEO, Gabriel Weinberg, arrived within hours. He confirmed the behavior. He explained that the company had a contractual agreement with Microsoft as part of the search syndication deal that powers DuckDuckGo's search results, which required DuckDuckGo's app tracking protection not to block certain Microsoft scripts specifically for the purpose of attribution measurement. The contract, Weinberg said, did not prevent DuckDuckGo from blocking those trackers in their browser's tracker blocking feature. But as of that moment, in May 2022, the app had been shipping without blocking them, and the user-facing documentation had never mentioned this carve-out. That moment, which the privacy community now refers to as the DuckDuckGo Microsoft disclosure, is the cleanest single data point in a longer pattern of small gaps between what DuckDuckGo promises and what DuckDuckGo delivers. And I want to walk you through those gaps carefully, because DuckDuckGo is not a bad product, and the people working there are not villains. The question is whether the marketing framing matches the technical reality, and where it does not, you deserve to know. Let me start with what DuckDuckGo actually does well, because pretending otherwise would be dishonest. The DuckDuckGo search engine genuinely does not save your search history in a way that ties to your identity. The privacy policy is clean on this point and has been independently examined. The browser extension provides real blocking against the majority of the tracker ecosystem. The mobile browser, even with the Microsoft carve-out that was present until 2022, still blocks substantially more trackers than Safari or Chrome would by default. These are real protections for real users. What I am about to describe is the gap between these real protections and the way the marketing and the defaults are structured. The gap matters because DuckDuckGo's entire brand value is built on the claim of comprehensive privacy, and a brand built on comprehensive privacy that contains undisclosed exceptions is operating on a trust premise it has not fully earned. Gap 1. The search backend. When you type a query into DuckDuckGo, that query does not stay inside DuckDuckGo's infrastructure. DuckDuckGo is not a full-scale web crawler in the way Google or Bing are. To provide search results, DuckDuckGo uses its own crawler for some sources, but relies heavily on syndicated results from Microsoft's Bing, along with other sources. Your search query in many cases is sent to Bing's backend to retrieve results. DuckDuckGo strips the user identifier and IP address from that query before forwarding it, which is a meaningful privacy protection, but the query itself is going to Microsoft. The contents of your searches, as text strings, pass through Microsoft servers in the normal course of delivering DuckDuckGo search results. DuckDuckGo has been transparent about this architecture in their documentation. To be fair, but the marketing language about not being tracked often reads as if your searches never leave DuckDuckGo's servers. They leave. They go to Microsoft in anonymized form. Gap 2. The Microsoft advertising relationship. DuckDuckGo's revenue model is primarily contextual advertising based on your current search query, served through partnerships that historically included Microsoft. When you search for something on DuckDuckGo and you click an ad in the results, the click goes through a Microsoft attribution pipeline. DuckDuckGo has stated that this pipeline is structured to minimize personal information transfer, and the current implementation forwards limited data. But the relationship exists, and the incentive structure created by that relationship is what led to the Microsoft script carve-out in the browser in the first place. The contractual obligation to preserve Microsoft's attribution tracking, which the CEO acknowledged, was a product of the ad syndication deal. The commercial relationship shaped the technical implementation in a way that disadvantaged users, and users only learned about it when a researcher looked at the packets. Gap 3. The browser's tracker blocking is based on a block list that DuckDuckGo maintains. And that list is not comprehensive. No block list is. But the specific choices about what to block and what to allow reflect judgment calls that users do not see. After the May 2022 disclosure, DuckDuckGo announced that they had renegotiated with Microsoft and would begin blocking Microsoft trackers in the browser. They pushed updates to do so. But the pattern, making a privacy judgment call that favored a business partner and not telling users, is a pattern. Any list-based blocker has similar dynamics. You do not know what is on the list unless you look, and most users do not look. Gap 4. Search Bang Redirects. DuckDuckGo offers a feature called Bangs, where typing an exclamation point followed by a site code, like BangG, for Google or BangW for Wikipedia, redirects your search directly to that external site's search function. This is a convenient feature. The privacy implication is less convenient. When you use a bang, your search query leaves DuckDuckGo and goes directly to the target site, which means that site logs your query tied to your IP address. Many users understand this is how bangs work, but the marketing framing around DuckDuckGo as a comprehensively private search tool glosses over the fact that using its most power user-oriented feature disables the privacy protection entirely for that query. Gap 5. Email protection. DuckDuckGo offers a service called Email Protection, which gives you a duck.com forwarding address that strips trackers from incoming emails before relaying them to your real inbox. This is a useful service. It is also a centralization of your email metadata through DuckDuckGo's infrastructure. Every email you receive at your duck.com address passes through DuckDuckGo's servers. The privacy policy states that the company does not store the contents or log the senders and recipients in identifiable form. And there is no reason to disbelieve that policy, but it is a single point of trust. If that policy changes in the future, or if the company is compromised, or if legal process compels disclosure, the exposure is meaningful. The service asks you to trust DuckDuckGo specifically, which is a different kind of protection than tools that do not require you to trust any single entity. Gap 6. Application hardening. The DuckDuckGo browser, both mobile and desktop, is built on the platform engine of each system. On iOS, it uses WebKit. On Android and desktop, it uses a custom build derived from Chromium. The hardening relative to Firefox or the Tor browser is minimal. It does not have per-site process isolation at the level Firefox provides with site isolation mode. It does not have the fingerprinting resistance work that Tor browser has invested in for 15 years. It is a convenience-oriented privacy browser, not a security-hardened browser, and the marketing language does not always draw this distinction clearly. For a casual user, the browser provides genuine improvement over Chrome. For a user with a meaningful threat model, it is not sufficient, and the marketing does not always help users understand which category they fall into. Gap 7. Policy versus engineering. Many of DuckDuckGo's privacy protections are policy-based rather than cryptographically enforced. The company says it does not log your IP with your searches. That is a policy. It is an enforceable promise under their privacy policy, and violating it would expose the company to legal liability, which provides real protection. But it is not the same as a system where logging would be mathematically impossible. Contrast this with something like Monero's privacy model, where transaction linking is cryptographically difficult regardless of the policy of any operator. DuckDuckGo asks you to trust them to enforce their own policy. That trust may be warranted, and the company has behaved well in most respects, but trust is not a cryptographic guarantee, and conflating the two is a framing that serves the company better than it serves users. Now the fair counterpoints, because I want to be honest about this. DuckDuckGo, compared to Google, is meaningfully better for search privacy. Not perfect, but better. Your queries are not tied to an advertising profile that persists for years across every service in the Google ecosystem. The behavioral retargeting that follows you around the web after a Google search is substantially reduced. For a user switching from Google, DuckDuckGo is a net improvement even with all the caveats I just described. The May 2022 response, while embarrassing, was also handled reasonably. The company acknowledged the issue, explained the commercial constraint, and committed to removing the exception. They followed through on that commitment. Compare that to how other companies handle disclosures of misleading privacy practices, and DuckDuckGo comes out relatively well. The alternative products are not all better. Brave has its own history of controversies, including the affiliate link insertion incident in 2020. Mozilla's Firefox is solid, but has its own telemetry defaults and its own commercial entanglements with Google search revenue. Startpage is owned by an advertising technology company and has its own set of concerns. There is no privacy search engine that is free of compromises, because operating a search engine at scale costs money, and money comes from somewhere. The question is not whether DuckDuckGo is better than the alternatives. It is whether the marketing framing accurately represents what it is, and whether users have enough information to make an informed choice about their threat model. My view, and this is opinion, is that DuckDuckGo is a reasonable default for users who want better than Google, but are not prepared to commit to the friction of Tor, a local search proxy like Woogle, or a fully decentralized search system like Yacey. For those users, DuckDuckGo reduces tracking meaningfully and does not require significant behavioral change. But it is not the comprehensive privacy solution that its marketing sometimes implies. It is a commercial product with commercial constraints, and those constraints have occasionally produced user-facing behavior that contradicts the brand promise. The lesson here generalizes beyond DuckDuckGo. Any privacy product built on a commercial business model has business interests that compete with user interests, and those competing interests get resolved inside contracts and technical implementations that users do not normally see. The only way to know what your privacy tool is actually doing is to look at the packets, read the privacy policy carefully, and stay attentive to the disclosures researchers surface over time. Marketing pages are marketing. The engineering is elsewhere. If you use DuckDuckGo, keep using it. It is a reasonable choice, but keep using it with clear eyes about what it is not, and what the commercial relationships are that shape the product you are actually holding.